episode of Forward Gettysburg. I am Aaron Smith, your host. I'm coming to you guys today from the Big Pipe Creek at Union Mills Homestead. Homestead's right behind me. Really cool place. Very historic place. Saw two different armies actually pass through it and camp there. Jeb Stuart's cavalry camped there on June 29th on their way to meet up with Ewell up in York. And of course that was one day before the Battle of Hanover, which will be an upcoming video, of course. And then the next day on June 30th is actually where Sykes' 5th Corps camped. So in these fields behind me, very likely Joshua Chamberlain, the 20th Maine, those guys camped somewhere in here. They might have drank from the creek here, the Pipe Creek, the Big Pipe Creek. They might have bathed in it. So really cool place. A lot of history here. Very cool. So, what I'm talking to you guys about today, of course, is the Pipe Creek line. That was George Meade's initial plan during the Gettysburg Campaign. So let's talk a little bit about that. June 28th, Meade is going to take over the Army of the Potomac from Joseph Hooker. Joseph Hooker wasn't very popular in Washington. He kept sending memos to Henry Halleck, the General-in-Chief, Abraham Lincoln, I need more troops. You know, I need to take the guys out of Harper's Ferry in order to have more troops. He wanted to pump up the 6th Corps and kind of make a smaller army in and of itself there with the 6th Corps, which was the largest of the Union Corps, about 14,000 men. And eventually Hooker's going to say, give me the troops from Harper's Ferry or accept my resignation. Lincoln and Halleck are going to call him on his bluff. They're going to shop around a little bit for generals. Of course, we have Reynolds, who's going to deny the assignment. So eventually they're just going to order George Meade to take over. So George Meade's going to take over the Army of the Potomac on June 28th. And when he takes over, George Meade has his corps kind of scattered around the Frederick, Maryland area. They kind of know where the Confederates are. They know they're in Chambersburg. They know that they're right at the gates of Harrisburg. They know that they're at York. So the Confederates are kind of spread out between Franklin, Adams, and York County up north of the Mason-Dixon line. Of course, I'm here in Maryland at the Union Mills Homestead. I just can't tell you guys how gorgeous it is here. I love it here. I'm not gonna lie, I actually grew up maybe 5 miles down the road. I learned how to fish here. I spent a lot of time here as a kid, so I'm really excited to be here today talking to you guys from this area. Anyway, Confederates, they're spread out all over Franklin, Adams, and York County. Lincoln and Halleck, their prime orders to Meade are going to be, of course, to defend Washington and Baltimore at all costs. Baltimore being an incredibly important port city, an incredibly important city in the border state of Maryland, which soil I stand on right now, and of course Washington, D.C. being the capital of the North. Meade wants some kind of a backup plan if he's pressed. He wants some kind of a plan in order to defend in case the Confederates decide to come this way. And of course where the Confederates are, several of the main routes are going to run down south through this area. Just to my right here, a little bit further south, the elevation increases significantly, probably 900, 800 feet. It's an incredibly steep hill, and this hill is actually a series of ridges that are going to run all the way from that kind of Taneytown, Emmitsburg area in the western part of Carroll County, clear out to about Manchester in the eastern part of the county. So in Carroll County, which is where we're at right now, this ridge is going to run pretty much the entire west to east length. It's called Parr's Ridge. Meade recognizes Parr's Ridge as an incredibly important defensive position, and that's why he's going to make it his fallback position. Now, it's not called the Parr's Ridge Plan, it's called the Pipe Creek Plan, because it just so happens that Pipe Creek runs almost that entire length of that ridge there. So George Meade is going to set up a backup plan, and he's going to send orders out on June 30th, which is going to reach his Corps commanders on July 1st. Of course, we know what's happening on July 1st, the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. The largest summit in Pars Ridge is Doug's Hill. It's about 1,100 feet. It's maybe 2 or 3 miles to our east from this position. And so on June 30th, where the Union Army is spread out, and I'm going to include maps in the video, so don't worry if you're not following along or if you're struggling to pull up, some kind of map explaining the plan. I'll include it at the end of the video, and of course I had one at the beginning of the video as well. But the Union Army is spread out all over Carroll County and parts of Frederick County, in the eastern part of Frederick County. So Reynolds, who is going to be commanding the left wing of the Union Army, that's going to include the 1st, the 11th, and the 3rd Corps. He's going to have Howard and Sickles, of course, underneath of him. They're all going to be posted around Emmitsburg. Hancock, the 2nd Corps, they're going to be near Uniontown. Slocum with the 12th Corps is going to be near Littlestown, that kind of 2 taverns, Littlestown area. Sykes with the 5th Corps on June 30th. Of course, they're going to be here at Union Mills. And then Cedric with the 6th Corps, they're going to be clear out to the east near Manchester as well. So Meade's going to draw up this fallback plan if pressed by Lee, and that's really, really important in the story of the Pipe Creek Plan and the later controversies that it causes. This is merely a backup plan for the Army of the Potomac if things go south as they head north to confront Lee's army. He's going to send a circular to all his corps to concentrate, if need be, at Pipe Creek. So, the plan itself. Now I'm going to discuss this from the left flank to the right flank of the Union Army. So this is going to be going from the west to the east, so try to follow along. The left flank is going to be the 1st Corps, and the left flank is going to be anchored at Middleburg, Maryland, which is a very, very small podunk town just south of Taneytown. So the left flank is going to be the 3rd Corps. They're going to be all the way on the left flank. And then we're going to have the 1st Corps under Reynolds, the 11th Corps under Howard, the 12th Corps and the 5th Corps. They are going to share Union Mills. Essentially, the right flank of the 12th Corps and the left flank of the 5th Corps, they're going to meet here at Union Mills at that Pars Ridge, which is just over yonder. And then, of course, the 6th Corps, they're going to stretch all the way out to Manchester. Now, this is quite a large geographical distance here. This is probably about 20 miles or so. This is a huge front. And you'll notice that I didn't include the 2nd Corps because the 2nd Corps is going to be the Army's reserve. And they're going to be held back at Uniontown. And then Meade would headquarter at Frizzleburg, which is probably about the center of that line. And that's also where the artillery reserve is going to be. Now, like I was saying, this is a pretty stretched out front of about 20 miles, a huge front. So how would this be a defensive plan? There are a lot of very easily navigable roads in this area. So if one point of that line was attacked, it wouldn't be too difficult to either send up the 2nd Corps in reserve to help reinforce that point of the line, or rather to draw one corps around, or maybe a division from a corps, and reinforce that point that's being attacked. So there's a lot of easily navigable roads in this area that Meade will be able to reinforce his line with. So, of course, we all know how history truly happened. The events of Gettysburg are going to overtake the plans of the Pipe Creek line. Meade is going to order all his corps to Gettysburg as the battle expands on July 1st. That's where he's going to meet General Lee. They're engaged in that great historic battle. And of course, we all know how the history ends there. The Union is going to come away victorious. Now, here's where the controversy comes in. A lot of generals, especially the likes of Sickles and also Butterfield, they're going to tear Meade apart in the post-war years, saying that Meade was cowardly, wanted to retreat back to his Pipe Creek line, that he was married to this Pipe Creek circular plan that he had. Here's the thing, the entire time that was just a backup plan. That wasn't Meade's main plan during the battle. That wasn't his main plan during the campaign. If you think about it, even on July 1st, he had only been in command of the army for about 4 days. and he needed some kind of plan for the army. You just can't send your corps up, because Lee's plan, marching north, was to destroy the Army of the Potomac piecemeal. He wanted to engage each corps separately and destroy them piece by piece. And I can't help but wonder if Meade maybe recognized that that was Lee's plan. So this was just a backup plan. And Sickles and Butterfield and those guys, they're going to write all sorts of things in the post-war years that are going to insult Meade, call him cowardly, call him, say that he wanted to retreat the whole time, and I just don't think that's true. I don't think Meade wanted to retreat. This was merely a backup plan. You always need to have a backup plan in all things in life, and this was Meade's backup plan for the campaign that, of course, we now know as the Gettysburg Campaign. However, even on July 2nd, it can be argued that Meade was still not super committed to fighting at Gettysburg. He had that Council of War, where they asked them the 3 questions, and everybody decided, hey, let's stick it out, fight, see what the Confederates do. So, where we get into that controversy is, was Meade willing to stay and fight at Gettysburg, or was he always in search of a way to retreat back to the Pipe Creek plan? Like I said earlier, I feel it would be really foolish of Meade. Meade was not a dumb guy. Meade had some experience. Of course, he was in command of the 5th Corps before the Battle of Gettysburg. Meade had some experience fighting battles, fighting wars, with some military strategy and tactics. So I don't think Meade was always in search of a retreat. I feel like Meade would have been foolish not to have a backup plan. Here's the thing, though. Even if he had this great Pipe Creek line that is way elevated, an incredibly natural defensive position, could have been reinforced, built with trenches, breastworks, all those kind of things, cannons placed every 5 yards along the line for 20 miles, I didn't do the math on that, but just hypothetically, even if he had this great defensive position, it was still no guarantee that Lee would attack him there. Robert E. Lee, I'm just going to say this, I consider Robert E. Lee probably the greatest military mind ever in American history. I consider him the Napoleon of American battles. I feel Robert E. Lee was a genius. He was daring, he was bold, he was willing to take chances, and more often than not, those chances paid off in huge victories. Chancellorsville, Second Manassas. I feel like Second Manassas was an ingenious battle. On Lee's part, his plan was absolutely ingenious. Of course, Chancellorsville, he divided his army 3 times in the face of overwhelming odds, and came away victorious. It's just incredible, absolutely incredible, the victory at Chancellorsville. So, Robert E. Lee, I don't feel Robert E. Lee would have been foolish enough to attack an incredibly fortified position. I personally feel if this was his initial plan, if the troops weren't where they were and engaged the way they did on July 1st, I feel like Lee probably just would have kept rolling through Pennsylvania. I definitely feel that Ewell's Corps certainly would have taken Harrisburg, and who knows where they went from there. This is all speculative, fun, what-if history kind of questions. I don't think just because Meade was at the Pipe Creek line, or if Meade would have been at the Pipe Creek line, that Lee would have attacked him. I feel like Lee's mission was to invade the North, live off the land, create pressure on the Northern government. And I don't think personally that Abraham Lincoln and Henry Halleck would have let Meade just chill here on the Pipe Creek line either. He wanted them to engage Lee, and especially if Lee was up north raising hell in Pennsylvania, took Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania, a huge industrial center, not only in the state of Pennsylvania, but in the north as well. I don't think they would have just let Lee hang out up there and do his thing. I think they would have definitely pressured him a lot more to get up there and do something about it, not just hang out at the Pipe Creek on Pars Ridge. Meade had to engage Lee to end his northern invasion. And as history shows us, that is precisely what Meade is going to do on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at Gettysburg. Anyway, that's a little bit about the Pipe Creek line. I want to start doing some more videos about, the kind of unknown aspects, the lesser known parts of the Battle of Gettysburg. So I thought the Pipe Creek line would be a really, really cool video to do. Like I said, I'm here at Union Mills Homestead in Union Mills, Maryland. Awesome place. If you guys are at the Gettysburg battlefield, it's maybe a 20-minute drive south. Definitely worth checking out, if anything, just to see where two armies camped at different times, literally a day before. I was reading one of the plaques over there, and in one of the houses, I want to say it's actually maybe that house across the road here. This would be the Baltimore Pike. I want to say that one general slept there, and then the next day another general slept in the same bed. And of course the first general was a Confederate general, and the next one was a Union general. So pretty cool little piece of history here, just south of the Mason-Dixon line in the beautiful state of Maryland. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I am Aaron Smith for Forward Gettysburg. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support coming from everyone from the channel, all your likes and views and everything. That's great. Thank you guys so much. Again, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one.